everyone, it's Tricia McCannon, and thanks for joining us for another exciting installment of a series on whole brain thinking. Now, this information can actually change your life and the lives of those you love. Why is that? Because as I explained in the introduction, the left and right hemispheres of the brain need each other. The masculine, which is the left side of the brain and the right side of the body, and the feminine, which is the right side of the brain and the left side of the body. And these deal with logical thinking and intuitional or creative thinking. This is very mental on this side. This one's very intuitive or emotional or empathetic on this side. And when you have the two together, you can actually acquire something called genius thinking. How do we do this? Well, I actually teach a whole series of these processes in my workshops, and I've just opened up an institute called the Gnosis Learning Center, or Gnosis Learning Institute. Don't even have a website up yet, but soon, where I'm going to be teaching these kinds of things at a practical level. So let's actually take a moment to do an exercise about this, and I'll show you how to do it actually at the end of this particular segment of the video. But before we do so, I want to talk about how the imbalance in our thinking can apply to us as individuals. Why does such an imbalance take place when obviously the divine designed both sides of our brain to be used hopefully in balance with each other? It can happen because of a number of things: concussions, falls, sports injuries. When these football players go out and they take such hard hits, it jars their brain. Think about the boxer Muhammad Ali. Obviously a man of enormous courage and persistence and diligence and highly respected by the world, but the amount of hits that he took to his brain were devastating. And of course I'm sure he endured not only a lot of pain, but also a lack of mental functionality in his later years because of the abuse that his brain took being jostled and hit by someone's incoming fist. So this can happen to not only the elderly, but it can also happen to the young. Sometimes we're in automobile accidents and we're seriously jarred, and there's not only maybe whiplash to the neck or your lower back is thrown off, but there can also be really a bruising of the brain capacity. You can go through a surgery and go through anesthesia, and until you detoxify the anesthesia, there can be parts of your brain that are very sluggish and that aren't functioning well. And if we sort of think about the brain like a computer, how many of us have sat on a computer and we had work to get done, and my God, that computer was just going so slow. It was driving us crazy. We had to shut it off and start it. We thought maybe it has a virus. Why isn't it working well? Well, in many ways, the brain is just like that. There are days when we seem like we're quicker. There are days when we feel slower. There are days where we feel emotional. There are days where we're very crisp and mental. There are also times in our lives where we are at peak performance, and there are other times where accidents, falls, injuries, emotional shocks, the death of someone, physical injuries, actually can turn off an enormous amount of the circuitry of the brain permanently until you restart it, you re-kickstart it. And so when you think about this, this has enormous consequences, particularly for our beloved veterans that are coming back from war, and our sports figures. You know, they're putting themselves in the line of fire, both sets of men, one for protection and really one for entertainment or for big salaries, but nonetheless they are actually doing enormous abuse to their bodies. The warriors many times go over and they're dealing with grenades and rifles and falls and concussions and literally warfare at a very deep level. And whether it's physical knock or shock to the system, or even an audio shock, it can create, because the ears, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, they're so close to the brain circuitry, all of this can affect us. And when we think about like examples that we have discovered in modern science, they're quite astonishing. For example, there was this perfectly lovely guy who was 25 years old, and he was an accountant. He had been an Eagle Scout. He was a model citizen. And suddenly he started acting weird, and he actually wound up going up to the top of the University of Texas, and this was in 1966, August 1st of 1966, and he shot and killed like 17 people and injured another 33, totally randomly before he was taken out. And everyone's horrified by this because this was not his normal behavior. When they went home to his house, they actually discovered he had murdered his mother and his wife, and he had left in his suicide note basically this letter that said, I should not be acting like this. You know, I am a normal, intelligent, healthy guy, but I'm having all these weird, strange thoughts. I don't know what's wrong with me. Can someone please do an autopsy on my brain when I'm dead? And in fact, the police fulfilled his request, and what the scientists came back and found was that there was pressure pushing on a portion of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala deals with fear and aggression and violence. And so obviously that physical neurological change in his brain that was activating a portion of him out of balance wound up creating untold bad consequences, not only for himself, but many innocent bystanders and loved ones. So this is an example of how an imbalanced brain can create an imbalanced life. An imbalanced life can create an imbalanced society, and how if we can work on balancing ourselves and the brains of those that we love, we can actually begin to change our society for the better and create a more loving, compassionate, creative, out-of-the-box thinking society that's also grounded and practical in the world. I hope this has helped, and now I'm going to just show you a very simple technique. If we have time, do we, Bruce?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so great. So this one is one that is you can do in 1 minute. It's very, very easy. You want to take your left hand and you want to put it behind your head at your atlas. That's right back here. And then the next position you're going to see is this one, and this one. These 4 positions basically are crossing both the left and right hemispheres of the brain, and they're moving along something called the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum is actually the largest tissue of the brain that's about 250 to 300, I think, centimeters, and it is what connects the right and left cerebral hemispheres of the brain and allows more whole brain thinking. Most of us don't have this very well turned on, but in the process of learning whole brain or genius thinking, we can turn it on. So we want to start by taking our left hand and putting it behind our heads, taking our right hand and spreading the fingers in front of us, and you can do this even as you're watching me. And the reason we're spreading it is to make sure that when we begin tapping, we are going across both hemispheres of the brain. Now when we tap, we want to breathe because the breath anchors this into the body. Are you ready, everyone? Left hand behind your head, take a deep breath, and you begin to tap both hemispheres of the brain. Let your breath out, which will anchor it, and then you tap your heart. Why do we tap the heart? Because there are 2 kinds of intelligence. Breathe in, emotional intelligence and mental intelligence. And this connects not only meridian points and chakras in the brain, but these 2 kinds of intelligence, emotional and mental. Breathe in, move your hand to the next position, and tap. Only takes a moment. Anchor it in with your breath and then tap your heart. Good. Next one, next position. Breathe in. Breathing in, breathing out. And now tapping your heart, connecting your heart and your head together. 4th position, just reach behind, spread your fingers, tap both hemispheres, and breathe. And now tap your heart. Excellent. Now the way I learned this was actually I had an accident myself. I broke my left foot, I sprained both wrists, and I had a concussion. And so for the first month, my brain was very imbalanced. My right side was shut off, and I was not in a good mood. And once I learned this technique, I very quickly, within a matter of a few days, doing this 3 or 4 times a day, takes a minute, I wound up rebalancing my brain, and then I was not only able to continue to do my clairvoyant work with people, but I actually wrote an entire novel in the next 3 months. So it's an incredible way of very simply rebalancing your brain and having your loved ones rebalance theirs so that they can think outside the box and live a more balanced and happy life. If you're interested in knowing more about this, go to my website at www.triciamccannonspeaks.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll have a few more segments on whole brain thinking if you're interested in knowing more.